Happy Monday, folks. Welcome to week 8. Week 8, man, time flies. By the end of this week, you will be halfway through the semester. So give yourself a pat on the back. October is almost halfway over, and in my mind, October and March. They're the longest months, and I think that they're the hardest months because really there are no breaks. So if you're feeling it, if you are kind of up to your eyeballs in work and life, then give yourself some grace. Try and take a walk. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Touch base with your professors if you're struggling. This is the time when, generally speaking, I see more students drop. It's between weeks 8 and 11. So if you feel like you're just starting to really hang on by a thread, reach out for support. The professors were on your side. And for me, I want to see you succeed. So if you're really struggling, then don't hesitate to reach out for anything. Okay, with that in mind, let's talk about week 8. So we are diving further, of course, right, into homegoing. And based on the conversations that I see happening in Discord, it sounds like everyone's really kind of liking the book so far. Um, Last week, you read Effia and Essie, and their stories really form the foundation for all of the other stories to come in the rest of the book. So it's really important for you to make sure that you click on the structure of homegoing because otherwise you're going to miss that lineage. And in my mind, that lineage is really, really important to understand like what's happening with Essie's line and then what's happening with Effia's line, right? Um, so again, you can see it here, right? Here's Effia and all of her descendants. Sorry, of course my highlighter doesn't work. And all of her descendants, and then Essie and all of her descendants. And each chapter flips between one side and another as it also moves forward in time. So this week we are reading Quay, Ness, James, and Kojo. Remember, Quay and James are coming from Effia. Ness and Kojo are coming from Essie. And so that becomes really important at the further we go into the story. So just make sure that you kind of have a handle on that. And again, each chapter is also moving forward in time. So you're moving up a generation, right? It's just really important that you kind of keep that in mind. So this week, again, 4 chapters. If you decide you want to read ahead, by all means, I encourage that. If you have more time in your schedule this week, that's great. You can even type up your Discord responses, just don't post them yet. Again, no spoilers if you decide to read ahead. But if you want to, if your time allows you this week, I think that's great. Go ahead, go for it. Keep in mind that these content pages have a lot of content. It's really kind of background information to help you understand what's happening historically, and that will become important with our end of unit assignment. So if you're kind of skimming through these for now, that's okay. But you're going to need to go back in and dive in once we get to the end of this text. All right. Activities for the week, the Discord conversations, of course. This week begins our 3-week study on literary criticism. So this class is literature and in critical thinking. It's like literature, advanced comp, and critical thinking. And one of the elements that's required of this class as part of the literature critical thinking intersection is a study of literary criticism. And so this week is really kind of the beginning of that. Now, if you are an English major, then at some point in your future, if you go on to get a bachelor's degree in English, you will likely take one or more classes that do a deep dive in literary criticism, or as English majors, we used to call it lit crit, right? That's not our goal here. So this is kind of like a brief overview into the field of literary criticism, and we're going to be looking at 5 of the main theories that really kind of form the pillars of literary criticism. We're not diving into lit theory, which is something different. And again, if you're an English major, you will study that. This is more about literary criticism. And literary criticism, you can think of it like a lens that you use to look at a story. You may have read a little bit about literary criticism in English 100, depending on who your instructor was. But it's nothing, don't be intimidated by how it sounds. It literally is like a lens that you can kind of put on, almost like you put on a pair of glasses and you're like, okay, with this lens now in mind, what do I maybe notice in the story? What do I pick up on that maybe I just kind of glossed over before? Okay, so literary criticism allows you to do that. This week you've got two different literary criticism theories. Next week you have two, and then the last week there's just one. So what you're going to do is you are going to read about what these two literary lenses, I'm calling them lenses because I want you to think about it as like a pair of glasses. You're going to read about these literary lenses, and then you are going to write about one of them. So I gave you an example. For me, my example was about Essie or Effie, and I used the feminist literary lens for my response, my example to show you. You're going to write off of any of the 4 chapters this week and use one of those lenses. So again, you're just kind of going back and thinking about, oh, what do I maybe notice now with this literary criticism in mind? What do I maybe pick up on? So the activity is called raising an eyebrow. Like, what if with this lens in mind now, what do I'm like, oh, I didn't see that the first time, right? And so that's what you're going to be writing about. So this is due by Friday. Of course, you have your grace period until Sunday. So you will have 3 of these literary lens assignments this week, next week, and the following week. Okay. Once you are done with your reading for this week, then you have your first reading response. You only have 2, but your first reading response, in fact, let's click into it, asks you to, okay, now 6 chapters in the book. What do you think she's doing? She meaning the author, Jessie. What do you think she's doing when it comes to the larger concept of power? What are we picking up on when it comes to power? Who has power? Who doesn't have power? Who's telling the story? The idea is for you to kind of, it's like the Barefoot Gen reading response, right? That one was open-ended. This one is more of a focused reading response. And I want you to theme it around this larger concept of power. So there are some questions here to get you thinking. Again, you do not need to answer these questions. They're just there to get you thinking, right? And you're only going to choose one of the 6 chapters to write about. Which one chapter, which one character was maybe intriguing enough to you that you think, ooh, I would like to write about this character as it relates to power, right? Again, this is not a formal response, but I am asking you to keep a few things in mind. So you need to make sure that you read through this. It's at least as long as a writing territory. It can be longer, of course. So make sure that you kind of read through these requirements. And again, that is due Friday with a grace period of Sunday. Excuse me. The last thing is, and it'll come back up here, you have a mid-semester check-in. And the mid-semester check-in is literally a mid-semester check-in. It's an opportunity for you to pause and really just kind of think about how things are going for you in the class. Thinking about your efforts, the work that you've completed. In one of the questions, I ask you to go back into Canvas and kind of look at the check marks, look at the X's, think about your effort, think about your growth, think about where you feel like you want to improve. So that's also going to be due on Friday. And in fact, it won't open until Thursday. It's not open yet. The other thing that I'm hoping to have in the next day or so is I'm hoping to have your essays finished, writing number 2. And when that happens, I will add another little quiz here that is, it's like a quiz, but it's not a quiz, right? But it's a writing number 2 check-in. So it will ask you to kind of go back into writing number 2, look at the feedback and that kind of thing. But you'll see that pop up here as soon as I'm done with all of the essays and giving you feedback there. Okay, so again, week 8. I know this is a busy week. So start early. Don't wait until the end. It will be hard. It will be difficult for you if you wait until the end. If you need help, don't hesitate to reach out. And week 8. So again, by the end of this week, we're halfway through, and then we're on the downhill. So take a deep breath. You're getting there. You're doing the work. See you later.